All right, so NeuralMesh. We've got their pitch deck. We've got the white paper, the whole 9 yards here.
Yeah.
And we are ready to dive in because this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. I think this is a really interesting company. They're kind of addressing something that's becoming more and more of an issue, which is that AI requires so much processing power
It does.
to actually make it work.
Yeah, it's like everybody wants the latest smartphone, but then they see the data plan and they're like, oh, I guess I'm using my old phone
That's a really good analogy.
for another year.
Because if you look at their pitch deck,
Yeah.
they highlight that the market size for this is just exploding. Like by 2030, it's going to be like a $500 billion market or something.
Yeah, $500 billion with a T.
With a T.
Oh my God,
So-
it's huge.
Yeah, this is not a small thing we're talking about here.
No, but the way we're doing it now, it just can't handle that kind of growth. And that's where I think this white paper comes in, right?
Yeah, like right now we're relying on these huge data centers
Yeah.
to do all this processing. That costs a lot of money, a lot of energy. It's not very efficient.
It's true. And this is a really bold idea, I think. Instead of going to these big centralized data centers, they're talking about a distributed network, almost like the difference between, owning a really powerful server and like plugging into the power of the entire internet.
Yeah, it's a really interesting approach. Essentially, they're saying, why don't we just have a global network of computers
Right.
all working together, sharing that processing load?
Okay.
So you're not relying on these like big companies to power all of the AI of the future.
So my laptop, my old desktop, even my phone could potentially be contributing to this like massive AI brain.
Potentially.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's a really interesting idea.
But how does that even work?
So that's where it gets even more interesting. They have this thing called AI-driven resource balancing. And they explain this in their project overview document.
Okay.
That's actually really cool. What they do is they use AI to analyze the strengths of all the different computers on their network.
So wait, they're using AI to manage other AI?
Essentially, yes.
That is so meta.
It's very clever because...
But kind of amazing when you think about it. They've got this AI manager matching up the right computer for the right AI job that's going on.
And the cool thing is because they're using this huge distributed network,
They can offer the same kind of processing power as those big data centers, but way cheaper.
yeah.
And on top of that, you're using processing power that would normally just be sitting around doing nothing.
It's true. Like my laptop while I'm sleeping or,
Exactly. Watching TV or whatever.
right. Like all of that processing power is just going to waste.
Yeah.
So this is a way to actually use it.
Speaking of waste, we were talking about the energy consumption of traditional AI.
Oh, yeah.
And this seems like it's a much more eco-friendly option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, less reliance on those big data centers means a smaller carbon footprint,
Right.
which is something that I think a lot of people care about these days.
Definitely. And they talk about that in their white paper as well. So
They do.
kudos to them for being aware of that.
Yeah, it's good to see that they're thinking about sustainability. So we've talked about the power of this network and how they're managing those resources. But this is where it gets really cool for me.
Right.
Because they're doing so much more than just speed here.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for them is democratizing AI,
Yes.
making it so that anybody can use it, not just these companies with tons of money.
And they actually get into how they're going to do that in the project overview.
They do.
This isn't just about making AI faster. It's about making it fairer.
Absolutely. And that's really the key here, I think, giving everyone access to the same tools and resources.
It's like that old utopian vision of the internet, right? Where everyone is connected and
Yeah.
sharing, and it's this beautiful thing.
It has the potential to really level the playing field.
Yeah, and who knows what we could do with that if everybody has access to these powerful AI tools.
Wow. Yeah. Who knows what kind of creativity and innovation we'll see.
Okay, so besides all that, they're also taking security seriously.
Yes.
They're talking about end-to-end encryption, two-factor authentication, all that good stuff.
Which is really important, especially with a distributed system like this, because you're relying on a bunch of different devices.
Of course.
So security has to be a top priority.
Right. You can have the coolest technology in the world, but if people don't trust it,
Exactly.
then it's useless.
Nobody's going to use it.
And get this, they're actually creating a whole incentive program around it.
Yeah, the gamification aspect is really interesting.
It is.
They talk about it in the project overview.
They do.
Users will actually earn rewards
Okay.
for contributing their processing power.
So the more you contribute,
Yeah.
the more you get. That's awesome. It keeps people engaged. It helps the network grow. What's not to like?
Yeah, it's a really clever way to incentivize participation.
And this is where it gets really interesting to me, because we're not just talking about like earning points or something.
Right.
We're talking about potentially changing the economics of AI.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
these rewards that users are earning,
Yeah.
they could be exchanged for other things, like premium features on the NeuralMesh platform,
Oh, wow.
cloud storage, maybe even other cryptocurrencies.
Okay, so you're blowing my mind right now.
It's a whole new economy
This is like next level stuff.
based around AI processing power.
Wow. They're really combining the best of the sharing economy with like the whole blockchain thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's very ambitious, but it's also really exciting to see.
It is.
And the thing is, they know it's not going to be easy.
Right.
They actually have a whole section in their white paper
Okay.
where they talk about the challenges.
Okay, let's talk about the challenges because this all sounds amazing. But
Huh.
is it too good to be true? What are we talking about here? Like, what are the big roadblocks they have to overcome?
Well, I think the biggest one for any distributed system is going to be network stability.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we've all had that experience where, like, your internet connection drops out
Right.
or a video call starts lagging.
Yeah.
Now imagine that, but instead of just being an annoyance, it could actually disrupt, like, complex AI processes.
Right, because we're not just talking about like one computer in a basement somewhere, right?
Right.
This is a global network of devices. And who knows what kind of internet connection they have in some cases.
And on top of that, you've got all these different devices with different hardware, different software configurations.
It's a logistical nightmare potentially.
It's a huge challenge for
Yeah.
sure.
So what are they doing about that?
Well, they're looking at several things. One of them is this idea of federated learning.
Okay. Yeah, I remember reading about that in the white paper.
Essentially, what they're doing is they're bringing the AI training to the data instead of the other way around.
So instead of like gathering all the data in one place,
Right? Which is a huge privacy concern.
not to mention a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, you've got data scattered across all these different devices.
Yeah.
So with federated learning, the AI model is actually trained locally on each device using its own data.
Yeah.
And then only the learnings from that training are shared back to the central model.
Oh, so the data itself never actually leaves the device.
Exactly.
That's huge for privacy.
It is.
Because that's one of the big concerns with this whole idea, right? Like, what if I'm working with some really sensitive data and it's being processed on some random person's computer halfway across the world?
Absolutely. And they address that directly in the white paper. They know that trust is going to be paramount.
They have to get that right.
And they're also looking at things like homomorphic encryption, which is a really cool concept.
Homomorphic encryption, I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea what that is.
Basically, it allows you to perform calculations on encrypted data without ever having to decrypt it.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
No, I'm serious.
That sounds like magic.
It's a pretty advanced cryptography, but that's essentially what it does.
So you're telling me that they can, like, run AI models on my data without ever actually seeing the data itself?
That's the idea.
That's incredible.
It is, and it really addresses that whole concern about trusting a third party with your data.
Okay, so they're taking data privacy seriously, but what about the network stability thing? Like, what happens if one computer goes down? Does the whole system just crash?
That's where redundancy comes in.
Okay.
They've designed the system so that multiple computers are assigned the same task.
Right.
So if one of them goes offline for whatever reason, the others can pick up the slack.
So it's like a safety net.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
And to manage all of this, they're using blockchain technology.
Right, blockchain. We saw that mentioned in their project overview.
Yeah, it's an essential part of the whole thing.
But how does it all fit together?
Well, for one thing, it provides a secure and transparent way to track all the contributions from users and distribute rewards fairly.
So, like, if I'm contributing my processing power,
Right.
the blockchain is making sure that I'm getting credit for that.
Exactly. It's like a digital ledger that everyone can see and trust.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it also helps with things like data integrity and security.
So this is really starting to come together now. I mean, they're addressing the privacy concerns, the security concerns, the stability
You
issues.
seem to be ticking all the boxes.
It's really impressive, but I have to ask,
Yeah?
is it realistic? I mean, this is a huge undertaking.
It is. It's incredibly ambitious. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I think what's exciting is that they're not just throwing a bunch of buzzwords around.
Right.
They've clearly thought this through. They've identified the challenges, and they're developing real solutions.
It's not just hype. It's like they actually have a plan.
They have a vision, and they're working towards it.
I like it.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So the future of AI might be a lot more distributed than we think.
It might be powered by all of us.
I'm into it. And on that note, Thanks for diving into neural mesh with me today.
My pleasure.
This is exciting stuff, and we'll definitely have to keep an eye on them.
Absolutely.
Until next time, folks, keep on exploring those technological frontiers. And we'll be back soon with another deep dive.